My name is Paige, and the last words my stepmom screamed at me were, "Get out of my house!" I still remember her fingers stabbing the air, the veins in her neck bulging, and the way my father stood beside her, silent, like he was carved out of stone. But she made one mistake. She thought kicking me out at 17 would break me. 15 years later, she drove 90 kilometers just to beg for money. And I made sure the entire city watched her crumble. Before we dive in, if you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you, then hit that like button and subscribe. Because today's story, it's one of the most satisfying revenge endings you'll ever hear. I grew up believing that family meant protection, warmth, safety. But that illusion shattered the day Frances walked into our lives. She wasn't just my stepmom, she was a storm pretending to be sunshine. I was 12 when she married my dad, Wayne, and from the very beginning, she looked at me the way someone looks at a stain they can't scrub out. She tried to play the sweet act in front of him. Soft voice, gentle hands, the whole, "I'm just trying to help" routine. But the moment he turned away, her eyes sharpened, like she was measuring how much space I took up in her house. 4 years I tried to ignore it. The snide comments about my clothes. The way she'd accidentally lose my school forms. How she always forgot to pick me up from after-school programs, but somehow remembered every facial appointment she booked for herself. But I kept quiet, because my father, he never saw anything, or pretended not to. By 17, I had learned to walk on eggshells, so quietly I could have trained the birds to envy me. College applications, part-time job honor roll, everything I did was to create some kind of shield around myself. Something she couldn't take away. But she did. It was the night that would change everything. I came home from my shift at the grocery store. 6 hours, no breaks. My hands still smelling faintly of cardboard boxes and cold freezer air. I stepped into the house and immediately felt it. That shift in the air. That tightness. Like something ugly was about to crawl out of the walls. Frances was standing in the kitchen. Arms crossed. Lips curled. Waiting. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "At work," I said, confused. "You know I close Thursdays." She smirked. "Funny, because I called your manager. He said you clocked out early." My stomach dropped. I had clocked out early, 15 minutes early, because the store was dead and my manager said it was fine. But to her, any small crack was an opportunity. Wayne appeared behind her, rubbing his eyes like he had just woken up from the nap he took every day instead of parenting. "Paige," she said loudly, dramatically, "we don't tolerate lying in this house." I blinked. "I'm not lying." "You always lie," she snapped. "And I'm done raising a disrespectful teenager." My heartbeat started pounding, so hard I could feel it in my throat. "What are you talking about?" That's when I saw it. Behind her. By the garage door. A duffel bag. My duffel bag. Already packed. "I want you out," she said. "Tonight." I froze. "What?" "Don't act surprised," she hissed. "You make this house miserable. You ruin everything. You think I didn't notice the attitude? The tone? The way you try to get your father to go against me?" I looked at Wayne. My father. The man who tucked me in with bedtime stories and taught me how to ride a bike. The man who should have been my shield. He didn't say a word. He didn't look at me. He looked at her. And nodded. I felt something inside me crack. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a quiet, painful split, like a bone breaking beneath layers of skin. "You're 18 in 2 months," she said. "Old enough to take care of yourself." "I'm still 17, I whispered. "And..." Her voice rose. "I want you out." I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to beg him to stop this. But my throat felt stuck, like it had filled with cement. She walked to the garage door, flung it open, and threw my duffel bag onto the driveway, so hard it bounced. Then she pointed outside. "Get out!" The cold night air rushed in, and suddenly everything smelled like oil, metal, and betrayal. My hands started trembling. "Dad!" I whispered. He stared at me with dull eyes. "Just listen to her," he mumbled. "It's for the best. For the best." I felt myself shrink. Like my existence was an inconvenience they could toss out with the garbage. I stepped onto the driveway, my shoes crunching against the gravel. My cheeks were burning, but my body felt cold, numb, empty. Then The garage door slammed shut. The sound echoed across the driveway, sharp and final, like a judge slamming a gavel. I stood there for a long time, hugging my duffel bag like it was the only thing holding me together. Within minutes, my phone buzzed. A message from my Aunt Lila. Heard what happened. I'm coming to get you. Stay where you are. I sat on the curb under the streetlight, tears silently rolling down my face. I didn't know it then, but being kicked out wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of my rise. And someday, Francis and Wayne would regret every second of what they did. Aunt Lila arrived in less than 15 minutes, even though she lived 30 minutes away. When her car turned the corner, headlights washing over me, I finally let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. She parked so fast the tires screeched, and before I could stand, she was already out of the car running toward me. Paige! Oh my God! She cupped my face in her hands, her voice cracking. Baby, what did they do? I tried to answer, but all that came out was a choke sob. She didn't push. She didn't ask another question. She just wrapped her arms around me, tight, warm, real. The way a parent is supposed to. That hug alone felt like someone had stitched together the pieces Francis had shattered. She helped me into the passenger seat and shut the door gently, like I was something fragile she didn't want to break further. As soon as we started driving, she handed me a bottle of water and reached over, squeezing my hand. You're safe now, she said softly. I've got you. I promise. For the first time that night, I believed it. Her house wasn't big, but it felt like the mansion of someone who understood love. The second we walked in, her dog, an old golden retriever named Maple, limped over and rested her head on my knee. Even the dog could feel the hurt inside me. Sit, Lila said, pointing to the couch. I'll make you something warm. I'm not hungry, I murmured. You don't have to be, she replied gently. But you need to feel cared for. Minutes later, she placed a mug of hot chocolate in my hands. Not the instant kind, real cocoa, steamed milk, whipped cream on top. My eyes stung again. The last time Francis made me anything was never. Tell me what happened, Lila said finally, sitting beside me. I stared into the mug, watching the steam swirl like it was trying to escape too. She kicked me out, I whispered. Said I make the house miserable. Lila's jaw tightened. And your father? I swallowed. He didn't say anything. Silence settled between us. Heavy, thick, full of a kind of anger only someone who truly loves you can feel. You're staying here, she said firmly. For as long as you need. You hear me? They lost the right to you the moment they put you outside like trash. I nodded, biting my lip as tears blurred my vision again. She pulled me into another hug. That night, I slept in her guest room. Clean sheets, a soft lamp, a warm blanket. It was the first time in years I felt like I wasn't intruding in someone's space. But the next morning, reality set in. No home, no parents, no plan. Only a duffel bag and a 17-year-old girl who'd been thrown into the world like an unwanted stray. But something inside me, something I didn't know existed, started whispering. They don't get to decide who you become. And I held on to that whisper like it was the only thing keeping me alive. The following weeks at Aunt Lila's house changed everything. At first, I moved like a ghost, quiet, careful, waiting for someone to yell at me for taking up space. Trauma teaches you to shrink yourself, to apologize for breathing. But Lila, she wouldn't let me disappear. Every morning, she left a sticky note on the kitchen counter. Good luck at school, superstar. You deserve good things. Proud of you already. It was strange, being encouraged, being seen. And the more time I spent away from Francis's poison, the more I realized how much of myself I had sacrificed just to survive in that house. School became my escape. My focus sharpened. My grades rose even higher. Teachers stopped me in hallways to say they noticed a light in me they hadn't seen before. It wasn't a light. It was freedom. Still, every night, the same questions followed me like shadows. Why didn't he protect me? Was I really that easy to throw away? Did my existence bother them that much? I tortured myself with those thoughts until, one afternoon, everything changed. I was sitting at the dining table, textbooks spread out. Lila walked in holding an envelope, her expression stormy. This came for you, she said, dropping it gently in front of me. The return address. Wayne Ellis. My chest tightened. I hesitated before tearing it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No apology. No explanation. No regret. Just one line. Francis thinks it's best if you stay where you are until things calm down. Until things calm down. I stared at the words as heat rose behind my eyes. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't say he missed me. He didn't ask to see me. He wasn't even pretending to be a father anymore. I folded the paper slowly and placed it on the table. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't from sadness this time. It was from clarity. He made his choice, Lila said gently. I looked up at her, voice steady despite the storm inside me. Then I'll make mine. That night, I sat on the small balcony outside the guest room, legs tucked to my chest, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. The air was warm, carrying the scent of freshly cut grass and the salty breeze from the nearby river. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a life without them. A life where I didn't wait for approval. A life where I didn't fear being discarded. A life I built with my own hands. A small thought sparked, quiet, but powerful. If they think I'm nothing, I'll become something they can never reach. I didn't know exactly how or when, but I knew I would, and that determination felt like the first brick in the empire I would one day build. The girl who was thrown out like trash was gone. Something stronger was forming. Something relentless. Something unstoppable. The shift from survival to ambition didn't happen overnight. It was slow, like sunrise creeping over the horizon, soft at first, then undeniable. Aunt Lila noticed it before I did. "You're different," she said one morning as I sat typing on my laptop, eyes locked on an online marketing course I was secretly taking. Focused. Driven. I shrugged. "I just don't want to depend on anyone ever again." She smiled sadly. "That's not ambition, sweetheart. That's self-protection." Maybe she was right. Maybe the fire in me came from fear. But I didn't care. I needed a way to build a life that Francis and Wayne could never threaten again. The course became an obsession. Digital marketing, branding psychology, consumer behavior. I devoured every lesson like it was oxygen. And for the first time in my life, learning didn't feel like an escape. It felt like a blueprint. Within months, I convinced a local bakery to let me run their Instagram page for free, just to gain experience. I took pictures, wrote captions, designed stories, and within 3 months, their sales jumped by 40%. Word spread. A boutique reached out, then a small furniture store, then a personal trainer. By my high school graduation, I wasn't just a student. I was a freelancer with real income. But the real moment, the moment everything shifted, happened at my graduation ceremony. I scanned the crowd, hoping maybe, just maybe, Wayne had shown up. Maybe he regretted what he'd done. Maybe he was waiting to surprise me. But all I saw were other parents cheering, clapping, crying, while my seat remained empty. Lila squeezed my hand. "You don't need them," she whispered. Maybe not, but the ache was still there. Later that night, I received a message request on Facebook. "Francis." My stomach tightened, but I opened it. "Congratulations on finishing high school." Wayne says congratulations too. "Hope you're making good choices." Good choices? The woman who threw me out like garbage was suddenly checking in as if she cared. I closed the message without replying. Instead, I wrote a new post publicly. Sometimes losing people is the best thing that ever happens to you. I didn't name them. I didn't need to. That summer, I made a decision that would define my future. I enrolled in a small business program in St. Augustine, close enough to stay near Lila, far enough to build my own world. College wasn't glamorous. I worked part-time at a print shop, took classes during the day, managed online clients at night. I didn't sleep much. But every time exhaustion whispered, "Give up," another voice whispered back, "They didn't think you could survive. Prove them wrong." By the time I was 22, I opened my first small marketing agency, 1 rented room, 1 computer, 1 cheap desk. By 25, I had 3 employees and a growing roster of clients. By 27, I had something close to an empire. But I didn't know yet. The past I buried was about to crawl back. Driving 90 kilometers, begging at my door, demanding something I would never give. And I was ready, more ready than they ever were. Success didn't happen suddenly. It was a steady rise. By 32, I owned a sleek office overlooking the water in St. Augustine, 30 full-time employees, and a reputation as the woman who could turn any failing business into a thriving brand. People respected me. People trusted me. People needed me. And then, the people who threw me away came knocking. Literally. One Friday morning, my receptionist buzzed my office. Her voice trembled. Paige, there's a couple downstairs demanding to see you. They say they're your parents. My heart didn't drop. It went cold. I walked to the glass railing of the mezzanine and looked down. There they were. Frances, still wearing the same superiority on her face like outdated perfume. And Wayne, older, grayer, still silent, still spineless. They looked smaller than I remembered. I took the elevator down. Before the doors even opened fully, Frances stormed toward me. Finally! We drove 90 kilometers. You're impossible to reach. Probably because I don't want to be reached, I replied calmly. Wayne lifted his hand like he wanted to hug me. I stepped back, and then Frances dropped the reason they came. We need $150,000. You've built a business. Blood must share wealth. Blood. The same blood that kicked me into the street. The same blood that watched me shiver in a garage. I didn't respond. Instead, I signaled my receptionist. Call building security. Frances's eyes widened. You wouldn't. You don't get to decide what I would do, I said quietly. Security escorted them out screaming. But that was just the beginning. 2 weeks later, they tried again, this time showing up at a public networking event I was hosting. Frances caused a scene. Wayne blamed me for tearing the family apart. Phones recorded everything. My attorney advised one thing. Press charges. Make it official. So I did. In court, I sat straight-backed as my lawyer played the audio from the day I was kicked out. Proof I had carried for years, recorded on my old phone. Frances screaming, "Get out of my house!" Wayne silent. A 17-year-old girl begging to stay. The courtroom went still. The judge looked at them with disgust. Harassment. Defamation attempts. Malicious demands for money. They were fined. Placed on probation. Legally barred from contacting me again. When we left the courthouse, Wayne tried to look at me, his eyes full of a guilt that arrived 15 years too late. I didn't even turn my head. They had thrown me away. I had risen without them. And now, they were nothing but closed chapters. I didn't seek revenge. Revenge came naturally when I built a life they could never reach. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up when your world falls apart. And sometimes the people who break you are the ones who unknowingly create the strongest version of you. Pain can be a starting point, but it never has to be your ending. If Paige's journey gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment below. What's the most satisfying act of karma you've ever seen? And don't forget to subscribe for more emotionally charged revenge stories that hit straight in the heart.